With Victor only playing 2 games, one of them looking completely lost, per his direct quote, and the second one, he looked like he had some potential. He looked like somebody that was ready to take that next step. What are your thoughts on Victor's performance in his 2 summer league games?
I mean, to me, it was a mixed bag. The first game obviously was not his best performance. And he even said so as much, saying, I was just out there not really knowing what I was doing, which, I mean, if you want to say that publicly, that's fine. I didn't really take that as like a bad thing to say. I mean, the guy's getting his first burn within the NBA circuit, and it's a summer league game. This isn't like the first NBA game, and he's still out there saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I think to me, you take it with a grain of salt and you move on from it. The performance is what it is. It wasn't his best game overall, but then he steps up in the second game and to me played a relatively solid game in his second performance. And overall, when you look at his summer league performances, he had 36 points, 20 rebounds, 8 blocks, and 3 assists, and he shot 41% from the floor. Would I like to see him play a little bit more? Sure, but I think San Antonio, when it comes to just from a Spurs perspective, they probably saw enough. They wanted to see him play and get a chance to play against, I would say, G League or maybe kind of like low-end NBA talent. And he was able to do that pretty effectively in that second game. The first game, as far as I see it, was an aberration. And then I think he really made up for it in the second game. So when it comes to Victor, to me, this kind of goes without saying just from watching some of his performances. I mean, the kid can play. There's no doubt about that. Even the fact that he is 7'5", 7'6". I mean, the dude is just a lengthy dude. But one of the things that really concerns me about Victor is his health moving forward. Because when it comes to some of these summer league games that we watched with him, Kev, I'm not gonna lie, he was getting bullied in some of these one-on-one matchups down low in the post. And these are summer league players that he's going up against. When we get to an actual NBA season where he's going up against guys like Giannis, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, this could be an issue. And San Antonio may have to adjust their system with him to maybe not get him in a vulnerable position where he could just get absolutely bullied on the post. Because if you guys just look at a picture of Victor, Kev, he doesn't really have like that strong of a muscular system. He's very skinny for his size. And I imagine as time goes along within his NBA career, he will be able to build up some muscle. But the injury thing is a real concern of mine. Some of these guys that are this tall, Kev, they don't necessarily last in the NBA. And even if they do, they're not as effective as we kind of hope them to be. Now, when it comes to Victor, there's definitely been a lot of hype, especially from what we've seen in the European circuit before he ended up being drafted by the Spurs, playing in France. But playing in France is a different situation than playing in the NBA. Granted, he has stated that when it comes to the NBA, that it's less physical, even though that I think that it's a little out of context because he hasn't actually experienced an NBA game yet. I think he'll get a rude awakening when it comes to his first NBA game when he actually experiences it. I think the one thing that he will have to adjust to is the overall athleticism that comes with the NBA, because he may be right in one sense that the NBA isn't as physical as it used to be. And when you compare the NBA to some other basketball circuits outside of the United States, it could be more physical in an international sense compared to what it is with the NBA. But the level of athleticism within the NBA, I think, is superior to every other league around the world. So when it comes to Victor, as long as Victor is able to remain relatively healthy, and if he improves his athleticism over the next couple of years, because this is going to be a development process with him. This is not going to be where he hits the court on the first day as a rookie for the Spurs and he's just going to take over the league. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think as long as he makes slow but steady strides, I think he could be a pretty solid player in the NBA. It's just the one thing that really worries me about him is the potential of injury with him. The fact that he's just not really well built when it comes to his overall muscle structure, that concerns me. And if he has a tendency to get hurt here and there and miss time in the NBA, that could be a consistent trend throughout his career. Hopefully that's not the case. I want to be able to see him play at an extremely high level. I want him to, potentially be one of the best players that the NBA has to offer. I think that he has that ceiling. It's just, I'm not sold on him being that yet. And it has nothing to do with his skill set. It's the potential of injury. And honestly, that's kind of how I look at Victor at this point. Hopefully I'm wrong. And I'll just say this flat out. Hopefully I want to be wrong in this case. I want him to play really well in the NBA and do what he needs to do. But at this point, he had a pretty solid summer league start just based off the 2 games that we've seen. But it's a very small sample size, so take it for what it's worth. 18 points, 10 rebounds a game, and 4 blocks. That's pretty solid. It's a good start. It's better than some other players that we've seen that have gotten drafted in this year's draft class. And we'll see how he transitions from this little summer league stint that he had with the 2 games going into next year with the Spurs.